My Lords, I'm grateful for the varied contributions heard today from noble and learned lords, many of whom have vast experience in this area. I declare an interest as Anglican Bishop for Her Majesty's Prisons in England and Wales and as President of the Nelson Trust. As a Lord spiritual rooted in Christian hope, I look for a criminal justice system which is restorative, responsible and relational, and which is effective in focusing holistically on prevention and rehabilitation, as well as appropriate conviction and punishment. There are some welcome proposals within this very long bill. These include community and diversionary cautions, problem-solving courts, and additional support for employment for ex-offenders. There are other aspects that raise concern, and I wish today to name just a few of them. Increasing sentence lengths, police-led diversion, sentencing of mothers, racial disparities and young offenders. So firstly, the use of life sentences for younger offenders, which seems to undermine any chance of reform and redemption. It comes as part of a suite of measures on sentencing, which will put ever more pressure on an overcrowded and struggling prison estate, with predictable negative consequences for education and rehabilitative work. Decades of tweaks to lengthen sentences have done nothing to improve the outcomes for offenders or prevent cycles of reoffending or indeed improve support for victims. Our sentences are already longer than most of our European neighbours, who neither suffer from higher rates of crime nor are their citizens notably less safe. My next comment is to encourage improvements in enabling considerable investment so police can consistently divert vulnerable people into support services using community resolution and out-of-court disposals. People often get caught in the revolving door of repeat low-level crime simply because they're destitute, traumatised, often homeless, suffering ill mental health and struggling with addiction. The Nelson Trust runs Project She, a point of arrest referral scheme in Avon in Somerset. Over 500 women were diverted away from the criminal justice system in its first 2 years. 75% of these women have 4 or more complex needs. Over the years, I've seen how repeated short sentences and the revolving door of custody particularly damages women and their families. More must be done, as has been said already, to protect the right to family life of children when their mother is sentenced. Reportedly, the vast majority of children have to leave their home when their mother goes to prison. Parental imprisonment is recognised as an adverse childhood experience, which can have a substantial negative impact on children's long-term health and well-being, as well as educational attainment. It can also seriously affect their life expectancy and the likelihood of being in prison themselves. Now, I'm not suggesting that no mother should ever go to prison. What I am saying is that through the passage of this bill, we can ensure that the right and appropriate response is delivered. And for the vast majority of women, that is not prison. And may I once again say that we most certainly do not need an additional 500 new prison places for women. Now, I briefly want to comment on how troubling it is, after all that has transpired in recent years, still little attention is being paid to racial disparities in the criminal justice system. It will be hard to build community resilience or confidence in a system while this is not acknowledged. According to research, black young adults are over 8 times more likely to receive a conviction for a low-level and non-violent crime compared to their white counterparts. More must be done. One interesting option amongst a raft of options to reduce this disparity could be to remove the need for an admission of guilt in order to receive a community caution. My next comment is around the issue of an expansion of whole life orders to younger offenders. On these benches, we welcome the efforts to reduce the number of children held in remand custody, but not measures that could see greater numbers of children serving longer custodial sentences. Treating children as children is paramount, particularly given what we know about maturity. And my friend, the Right Reverend Prelate, the Bishop of Derby, who's unable to speak today, will be following these issues closely. Time is up. So in summary, my lords, we must find effective ways of preventing people entering cycles of criminality and reoffending, as well as strengthening and protecting communities. This can only be done by a criminal justice system which inspires confidence and is rooted in a consistent ethos and strategy at every level, based on evidence and research, and which joins up the work done on the police, courts, probation, parole, prison and civil society organisations within a framework which is restorative, responsible and relational.
My lords, I've often reflected